How's it going, everybody? This is the Music Production Podcast, and I am Brian Funk, aka AfroDJMac, musician, producer, Ableton certified trainer from Long Island, New York. And today's episode is called Share Your Secrets. Might be a short one, but I think it's an important point. Share your secrets. Now, maybe this makes you a little nervous. Maybe you've got a bag of tricks. Maybe you've found some success as a producer or a musician, and you've done things that have worked out and brought you some success. I think you should share those, and I have a few reasons why. Maybe it makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it makes you scared that people will know your secret and be able to replicate what you do. Maybe copy what you do, rip you off, do it better than you do, maybe even. Sharing your secrets forces you to do something very important. It forces you to not rely on single tricks or single techniques. I've kind of been doing this for a long time now, sharing my secrets. And sometimes people will say like, yo, bro, what are you doing? People are going to rip you off, because I give away so many sounds I make. I do my own sound packs and Ableton Live packs, sample packs. And these are sounds I spend good time creating because I want to use them in my music. And I give them away at the same time I finish them. So a lot of times there are people using my sounds to make music before I even get a chance to use my sounds. And that might sound kind of funny, and it sort of does as I say it. Maybe there's a part of me getting angry, like, what are you doing, man? Those are your sounds. But it's not like that, because I've learned now that I am not my sounds. My music is more than just that. And when people take the sounds and sometimes my, secret sauces of music and do something with it, they inevitably do something much different than what I ever would have done. It's exciting to hear my sounds in other people's works, or to hear music that people tell me that they used my sounds. And honestly, most of the time I can't even tell. I don't know. I would never know if you told me. So it's really rare that it kind of comes back to me. We're like, oh man, that's what I was going to do. And this person stole it out from under me. That's never happened. And what happens when I share my stuff is that, usually 99 times out of 100, people are pretty grateful, and it makes new connections with people. A lot of times I'm also creating music when I share my sounds, and my sounds bring people to my music. That's one of the ways I got started in doing tutorials and giving stuff away like this. I noticed that I was listening to the music of the people I was learning from. And I thought that was really cool and a great way for them to get their music out. And it seemed like a nice way for me to do it too, by giving away my stuff, giving away my secrets. And there have been times where I was a little reluctant to share some of the things that I made because, oh, this one's really cool and that's like my thing, So maybe I hesitated a little, but in the end I gave it away and put it out there for people. And I think that's really important because it's taught me not to rely on one little bag of tricks. I have to constantly come up with new bags of tricks. And it's made me have to be more creative, more imaginative, and explore sound and look for things. There are packs I've put out that, or only I could have made, maybe even if it was just because of the sounds around me in my house or the people I'm with that are doing it, whatever it is. But then it goes out there and it's no longer just this thing I can rely on. And, here's a harsh reality. I got some news for you. If your success in your art, in your music, is based on some secret preset you have, or some little sound you found, or some, whatever sample that you got, if that's what it's all riding on, then you got a serious problem. You got a serious problem. You're working on a gimmick. And a gimmick will only take you so far. We can look to history to see examples of that. The gimmick will only get you so far. And if you're clutching on to it, maybe it's your template or your whatever preset bank in your synth, and that's your gold right there, that your secret thing where all your success is based on. If you're clinging to that, you're probably not exploring new things. You're not challenging yourself to move outside your comfort zone. You're not challenging yourself to find new tricks to use. And it may very well be inhibiting your growth. And we've all seen people that rely on the same set of tricks, and they do get old after a while. I remember, I think it was Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead. Again, here I go. I might be misappropriating someone's words, giving someone else credit. But let's say that's who it was, because I think that's who it was. Where he, in talking about like musical ideas, he said, nothing's precious. Nothing's precious. And I heard that at a time where I was like hoarding my own little ideas on guitar, my own parts, and even like chords that I found that I thought were cool and sequences of chords. And he said, nothing's precious. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, that riff is a precious one. And then you start thinking about like maybe some of the Radiohead songs that were hits. Like, oh yeah, well, what about that? That seemed pretty precious to you. That got you some success. But when you get that mindset that like nothing you're doing is precious, a couple of nice things happen. And it's mostly has to do with relieving stress. Have you ever had a hard drive crash or lose something you're working on? And that kind of devastating, sinking feeling where all of your hard work is suddenly gone. Poof. When it's precious to you, and let's just clarify something, like, of course, all our work is precious. You know, I save everything I do and keep it. But what I mean by precious is like, it's like earth-shattering if you lose it. So whatever it is that you lost is so important and precious that you feel like you can never recreate it again. That's a bad place to be in your head. However, if you have the mindset where nothing's precious, you believe in your heart that if you did it once, you can do it again. Think of how empowering that is. Just a simple mindset shift here, where you go from in one end like, oh my God, I lost that. It was the best thing I ever did, and I'll never be able to equal that, which is a really negative insult to yourself, compared to when you say, oh, it's gone. All right, well, I did it once. I could do it again. And if I can't do it again, I'll do something else that's just as cool, just as nice, just as pretty. That's way more empowering. And that's an attitude thing. And that's, again, mindset I spoke about before on this show. But that's something that will help carry you through those devastating losses. I'm not saying like just it's great when things get lost. Of course not. But the idea is how you deal with it, how you handle it. What do you do with that now? That if it's not precious, then you can move on confidently. If it's precious, you're stuck. And now you're panicking and you're worried. And that's why sharing your stuff, sharing your secrets, I think is important. Because you're getting it out there. You're letting others hear it. Now, there's something to be said too about like when something's precious, especially in the context of playing with other people. If you go into playing with other people with the idea that your musical part is precious and important, needs to be in there, it's amazing. It's the coolest guitar part I ever came up with. Such a cool beat. If you have that idea, it's going to close your mind to the bigger picture. So you got that amazing, elaborate guitar riff. Well, what if it just doesn't sound good in the song? It's getting in the way of the vocals. The vocals are the most important part of your song in most kinds of music. Generally speaking, of course, but they usually are the focal point. And if we let our ego tell us that this part's important and needs to be in there, we lose sight of that. And ego is the biggest killer of bands, of songs, of musical vibes. The ego is death. It really is. It's when you let your own self get in the way of the bigger picture. Ideally, when people are making music together, the sum of the parts should be greater than the whole. Or did I say that wrong? The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's what I meant. Because the thing you're making is more important than each individual component. The thing you're building is bigger than the little parts on their own, because it's the coming together of those parts that matter. And now if your little precious guitar part is getting cut, or people want to cut it and you refuse to, that's going to damage the greater good. And then the whole loses out. The song loses out. People don't hear that nice, sweet melody the singer's singing because your guitar part's in the way. And yeah, maybe there's a guitar player somewhere that actually cares, but probably not. Probably not. It probably doesn't matter that much. It's important to remember what is important. And that is the bigger picture. In the case of being in a band, it's the song. It's the collective sound you're making together, not the fact that this is a really awesome drum fill and who cares if it interrupts the flow of the groove. That's not a way to think, but it's very easy to get caught up in this idea that things are precious and that it has to be there. It's just such a cool part, but it doesn't have to be there. And if you can let go of that, then maybe there'll be another time for that guitar riff. Maybe there won't, but it shouldn't matter. What should matter is what's coming out of it, the bigger picture. Having this mindset that things are so important, you got to hold on to your secrets, is going to get you in trouble. It's going to bring your ego into play. And it's going to put you in a position where your ego is defensive. And that's probably the most dangerous spot for the ego to be as far as creativity, because the ego wants to preserve itself. And it will do anything it can. And this is where bands get into fights and arguments. And it's important to realize that sometimes maybe the best thing you can do is not play. That's maybe a more precious move because it's going to be better for the whole. So the ego comes into play. Really important. Share your secrets. Let go of anything being super precious. And that shouldn't be as much of a problem. And the most, in my mind, probably the most beautiful part of sharing your secrets is that you're sharing your secrets, that you're giving away information and knowledge. You're passing it on. Humans and us, in our present day and age, we are the culmination of generations and generations of ideas added up and piled on top of each other. Could you imagine if the secrets of, electricity or motor vehicles was kept by the people that came up with that and didn't share that? And then, after they die off, that technology, that advance is gone? What a shame that would be, right? By sharing your secrets, you pass it on. You let others have things too. And you really are adding to the collective good of music, of creation, of art. You're adding to that collective good. You're passing it on, and now somebody else might take that and expand upon it, build upon it, make something bigger and better, which in turn you may very well learn from as well. So your little contribution may be the catalyst to get somebody else going. This has happened to me when I release some of my packs and my music and I give it away and let people do what they want with it. Sometimes it comes back and it's like, ooh, wow, I never thought of that. What a great use of this. What a nice way to take something that I had an idea of that I thought was really nice at a certain level, and then just take it and knock it out of the park and bring it somewhere else. And that's a real interesting learning experience too. You'll get that a lot from collaborating with people when you play music together, because one idea builds upon another. So your ideas get passed off to somebody else and they add their ideas on top of it. And now you can add your ideas on top of that, and it just keeps growing and building. People are a collaborative bunch. All the great things we've done together. And in as far as I'm concerned, like if you take any great musician and songwriter, what have you, they have all benefited from those that have come before them. And could you imagine how great it would be if you were the person that helped the next great musician, songwriter, artist reach the next level, even if it's just in some way? How important is that? How many people are behind the historical great people in human history? Millions. There must be millions, because we're all building off of each other. We're all adding to the collective good. So by sharing your secrets, you are adding to that collective good. You're paying it forward, you're passing it on, and it's going to come back to you. And it's going to come back to you on a different way. You'll eventually see it in a new light, where it's been added to, where it's been expanded upon, elaborated on, and there's something there for you to learn now. It's a kind of cool circle of life thing. It prevents you from relying on old tricks and getting stale. As I said before, if you're relying on just one little trick or secret, you're in trouble. It's going to catch up with you. That thing's going to get old, and then you'll have nothing because you've stagnated. You haven't tried to grow. When you give away your secrets, you have to come up with new secrets. You have to come up with new techniques. And a lot of times those new techniques are the very things that come back to you from the people that borrowed from you. And it can help you, sharing your secrets can help you kill that ego. Let the ego go. It's the biggest killer of bands. It's the biggest killer of creativity. The ego. It gets in the way. The Ego is the Enemy. It's a good book. Read it. Ryan Holiday. Watch out for that ego, and you can do so by sharing your secrets. So I ask you, share some secrets. I've got some comments on my webpage, AfroDJMac.com/podcast, where this episode is, or leave it in an iTunes review or whatever you want. But share your secrets. What do you got? What cool thing are you doing that maybe others could benefit from? And we may find that if we all get these things out, if I share one secret and you share one secret and 20 other people share a secret, now we have 22 secrets to play around with, which is pretty cool. That's a lot better than the one I started with. I hope you can do that. Get over the idea that things are precious, that you're just a one-trick pony that has a special preset or some nonsense like that, because you're not. Don't sell yourself short like that. Share your secrets. Pass it on, pay it forward. Thank you so much for listening to the Music Production Podcast. Take care.